Okay, everyone, it's Rosie. Today, we're going to talk about my current obsession, Captain Marvel. You can't stop me. We're also going to talk about the love of my life, Wonder Woman. Now, before you worry, this is not a video where I'm going to compare these two movies or characters to decide which one is better. They're both great, B+, maybe A- for both, depending on how I feel. They have their strengths and weaknesses. And I don't think trying to break them down and pit them against each other is particularly fun or interesting. But here is what I do want to talk about. Did anyone else notice that the mouth-foaming conservative nerd bro pushback was way worse against Captain Marvel? Why is that? Now, that isn't to say that Wonder Woman had no pushback against it, or that none of that discourse surrounding these films came from more left-leaning sides of the internet. Wonder Woman had a lot of discussion about Gal Gadot and her time in the Israeli military. Captain Marvel has seen a lot of discussion about the role of the US military in its production, and those are, their own thing. But I'm particularly interested in the more right-leaning backlash we saw for both films, and I think the fact that we saw more aimed at Captain Marvel breaks down to a few things. First, the difference in franchise is a big thing. If we're being real, the DCEU is, a little hit or miss with its films. I don't think many people expected Wonder Woman to do super well just because it was, sitting next to Batman v Superman. And people tend to not get angry about films they think will do poorly in the box office. And if Wonder Woman did poorly, it wouldn't really impact the overall DCEU much. The MCU, on the other hand, is very well regarded by nerds. The worst thing that you can say about any of their 20 films is that some of them are adequate. I mean, I could say a lot worse about Ultron in particular, but that's just me. There's a lot of pressure for these films to be good, or at least not be bad. And since Captain Marvel is the last film before Endgame, some people were protective of the MCU. There's also the issue of timing. When Wonder Woman came out, there hadn't been a good, really good female superhero movie. Like, Catwoman and Elektra were kind of the go-to, and they were bad. So again, low expectations. But then, Wonder Woman did really well, and Black Panther did really well, and suddenly the idea of a superhero movie that wasn't about a white dude doing really well was a very real reality. And I think that made some people who were quieter for Wonder Woman a little louder when it came to Captain Marvel. Another issue, I think, is how Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel are situated within their comic universes. You can't do Justice League without Wonder Woman. You just can't. So much that we actually see Wonder Woman in Batman v Superman before her solo film came out. She is so central to DC's core lineup that it would be ridiculous to complain about her inclusion. Carol, even classic Marvel was never very important to the overall Marvel universe, and Carol is still very new in the role. She only took up the Captain Marvel name in 2012, and yes, if you actively read Marvel comics, especially Avengers stuff, Carol plays a big role in some stories, but to the casual fan, she's not a vital part of the Avengers lineup in a mainstream view. The actresses themselves also may have played a role in some of this pushback. While there was a lot of discussion in leftist circles about Gal Gadot and her time in the Israeli military, Gal herself caused very few waves in the media. She's charming and sweet in all her interviews. Brie Larson, God I love her, tends to be a little more, how do I say this, snarky with the media, maybe? For example, when some bozo on Twitter said that Captain Marvel needs to smile more in the promotional materials, Brie Larson photoshopped goofy smiles onto all the male Avengers on their posters. In one interview, she said, Quote, "About a year ago, I started paying attention to what my press days looked like and the critics reviewing movies, and noticed it appeared to be overwhelmingly white males." End quote. She also made a rather infamous comment that she didn't really care what a, quote, 40-year-old white dude, end quote, thought of a movie like A Wrinkle in Time, which is a film that celebrates black women and girls. And my friends, the internet lost its shit over this. Brie Larson is clearly a racist, sexist, bigot, monster bitch because she thinks the media press should be more diverse. The horror! The outlandish horror! And you know, Wonder Woman had its naysayers and its haters, yes. But Rotten Tomatoes needed to not only lock audience reviews before the film came out for Captain Marvel, but also purge it of trollbots. Men lost their minds before this film even came out. They were gonna boycott it, they were convinced that it must be bad, and they must hate it, and it would be the ruin of the MCU and all nerdy things they loved. And I think those four factors, the franchise itself, proof that diverse heroes could do well, the characters placed within that franchise traditionally, and the mainstream response that the actresses all played a role. I think that these four have been discussed at length on the internet. I've seen them talked about. But there's another factor that I haven't seen addressed as much that I do want to talk about some. And okay, here is the part where I re-emphasize that this is not meant to pit Diana and Carol against each other, to decide which of them is a better hero, or a better role model, or more feminist, or more empowering, or any of that. That is not my goal. I love both of these characters. I have all the merch I can find for both of them. I have tons of comics for them both. Really and truly, they are both fantastic. But I think part of the extra backlash against Captain Marvel is that in many ways, Wonder Woman is a more palatable and comfortable version of a female hero. Less challenging to the status quo, maybe more in line with traditional depictions of strong womanhood in a less threatening way. And I say that not to argue that Diana is a better or worse role model than Carol, it's just an observation. Let me explain. Diana is a magical princess, unlike a normal woman, who rejects the matriarchy of her home specifically to help men. She is a straight white male love interest and wears... Look, I like Diana's outfit a lot, but it is a corset and miniskirt. And I know it's in line with the comics, and this movie did a really good job of not objectifying Diana in it. There's no gross, lingering, leering shots of her in it, but still, it is a corset and miniskirt. They even digitally added heels to her outfit in post-production. And to be clear, none of these things that I've just listed are inherently bad, except for maybe the heels thing. It's not bad to be a magical princess. It's not bad to want to help people, or unfeminist to want to help people. It's not bad or unfeminist to have a love interest. It's not bad to dress in a feminine way. These aren't bad qualities. But they are qualities that are traditionally like the way the mainstream culture views girl power for little girls, I suppose. Non-threatening. Doesn't rock the boat too much. Compare that to Carol, who is not a magical princess. She's like a normal woman with a military background, something that is still somewhat controversial today in some circles, who has experienced a lot of sexism in her life. She rejects a male mentor and military state specifically to help oppressed refugees and goes on a journey of self-discovery. She doesn't have a love interest, unless you count Maria, which you should, so she doesn't have a straight white dude love interest. And her outfit is, it's wrist to ankle space armor. She spends her movie clomping around in flannel and baseball hats and minimal makeup looking like somebody's disaffected niece. These traits are not inherently better or worse or more feminist than the more feminine traditional traits we see Diana with, but they are more challenging to the mainstream ideas of what kind of heroes little girls should look up to. They are more out of sync with the status quo. And, I'm not sure I would classify either of these movies as truly feminist films. Neither deal heavily with, feminist themes and issues in a particularly overt sense. Captain Marvel spends a little more time on the idea of women being discriminated against, but it's not a major plot point in either film. But if you are a good old right-leaning, maybe not overtly sexist, but you have traditional views on gender roles kind of guy, which of these two women would feel more threatening to that worldview? And I think that both Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel are really fun movies and make for really positive role models for little girls and boys and all kids, The fact that they are different is great. There's 1,000 dude heroes out there that are all different. Stoic and nerdy and cocky and quiet, sciencey and brawny. And so no one feels the need to debate who's a better role model for boys, Spider-Man or the Flash, Green Lantern or Thor. And that's my hope for lady superheroes. Both Wonder Woman and Captain Marvel crushed it at the box office. And my hope is that we will keep getting good, fun female superhero movies so that girls can see a wide array of heroes like them and no one needs to pit them against each other. Also, I want a She-Hulk movie. I sort of lost my train of thought there. Right, okay. So why did Captain Marvel get so much more pushback than Wonder Woman? A lot of reasons. Wonder Woman proved that female superhero-driven movies could be good, Brie Larson has a way of riling up certain parts of the internet, and Captain Marvel is herself, in many ways, a more challenging portrayal of a female hero to some mainstream viewers. But despite all the backlash, Captain Marvel has built on the legacy that Wonder Woman began, and I have big hopes for superhero women in the future. So thank you for watching. Down in the comments, tell me which female superhero you want to get a movie next. The correct answer is She-Hulk. But really, if you liked watching this queer millennial feminist rant for a few minutes, do all the YouTube stuff, and be sure to check out my Patreon where you can vote on an upcoming video. And see you all next time.